As a mediator, I'm a neutral because I have to be. And that means that I don't take sides and I don't have any stake in the game. But that's not totally true for me as a mediator because I take both party sides. I'm very interested in my client's happiness. And so I feel like I do have a little bit of stake in the game. I really want people to come out on the other side feeling good. I practiced and taught mindfulness and meditation for a decade before I became a mediator. So my foundation in this craft is very much mental health based. One of my favorite books is by a Buddhist monk. His name is Thich Nhat Hanh. He's very famous and many people have probably heard about him. But it's called No Mud, No Lotus. And this means the most beautiful parts of yourself will come alive and grow out of the messiest experiences. And so I want my clients to know that I'm here to help them through those really messy bits and trust that there's beauty on the other side. Back when I was meditating with a T, like 3 or 4 times a day, I used to teach meditation and mindfulness. So I would have these visions of myself sitting between 2 heads of state. And I would be brokering peace. And that vision, I thought it was interesting, but it never really meant much to me because I didn't understand it at the time. And then I went through my own divorce and worked with one of the mediators here actually at MWI. And those visions took on an entirely new meaning. And I really knew what I was supposed to be doing. I was supposed to be helping people come together and find peace in their own lives, real people, everyday people. And working with families is really important because peace begins at home. And so I pursued a career in mediation. I started training in workplace mediation with Cornell University's ILR school. And when I was finished up with that, I landed a gig at MWI on staff, and I've been mediating with MWI. Sometimes I get the two mixed up, mediating and meditating, because they've both been such a big part of my life. But it's interesting how the two are really cousins of each other. They really speak to each other in beautiful ways. So my superpower as a family mediator is empathy. I have step parents going back more generations than I can count on my fingers. I'm a stepmother myself. I became a stepmom when I was about 26 and then had 3 kids from scratch, went through my divorce, and currently I'm a stepmother to 7 children. And so, yeah, I've really been through it all. I've seen it all. I'm extremely familiar with the emotions, with the hardships, with the confusion, with the lack of control. And I think that me having been through the fires helps me have deep compassion for those who are walking through the fire now. You may be wondering if divorce is the next step at all, regardless of going through attorneys or mediators. You may be wondering, should I be getting a divorce? That's a very common first question, and most people sit with that for years, if not decades. So what I will ask people when they're starting to grapple with this question is, are you in love? And if there's love left in a relationship, then it's probably worth exploring, and it's probably worth fighting for. So especially if there are children involved. And what I think is so beautiful about mediation is it's not a final legal commitment. It is a conversation, and the conversation can go in many ways. So this conversation may lead you to reconciliation, and it may lead you to a split. Because it's non-adversarial, there's space for both. So if you come into this saying, I want to start mediating to see if I can make this marriage work, and that's the initial intention, we can do that. And it's called, there's actually a process, it's called mediation to stay together. And we can help you try to craft a contract that will meet you and your spouse where you are so that you can work it out and can stay together. That might go sideways, and you might decide, this is not what I want to do during the course of the mediation process, and come to the conclusion that divorce is the right next step, and we can help you do that too. So, but if you have kind of gone through all the decision-making process and you know that divorce mediation is going to be a good fit for you, the first thing that I would do besides finding a terrific and experienced mediator is to get educated. Divorce is something that nobody wants to go through. It's something that when you do bump up against it, you suddenly need to become an expert on something you never wanted to become an expert in. So, there's an obstacle just in getting to the place where you want to learn about it. But if you can, hurdle that obstacle and just start to do some work, roll up your sleeves and get some books, look at the websites, and maybe most importantly, besides the books and the websites, talking to friends who have been through it and you see them as successful. So that means they maybe experienced their divorce, not without emotion and not without trauma, but with integrity. Because those things, emotion, trauma, frustration, depression, being as scared as heck, all of those things will likely happen. But you can experience them with integrity. And so look for friends who have done that, and also look for friends who are amicable still with their exes. And those are the people you want to talk to. Don't get caught up in talking to your friends who complain about their ex all the time, who are just a hot mess. We all have hot mess divorced friends. It's okay. That's okay. They are where they are, but you don't need to get advice from them. So really align yourself with the people who look and live the way you want to look and live when you're all done with this. Everybody wants to know, how much is this going to cost me? Compared to a litigated divorce, which in Massachusetts, where we mediate, is typically somewhere between $10,000 and $25,000 for a litigated divorce, because it's two people paying two attorneys a retainer, probably between $5,000 and $10,000 just for the retainer. It's a much different situation. In most mediation firms, we all have different fee agreements, but for MWI, you pay as you go. You pay for the hours that you spend with us. The more work that you do on your own, the less it's going to cost you. This will depend on the assets that you share with your spouse, your children, how many children you have and how old they are. It will depend if you have a business together with your spouse, or if there's a lot of inheritance involved or something that complicates your situation. It could take longer, but the more work that you do beforehand or in the process of, to, like I said, get educated, really understand what your rights are, and really understand, have real clarity on what you are seeking. So when all this is over, what do you want? What do you want your life to look like? If you have more clarity around that, then this whole process will go much more smoothly and it will happen much more quickly. So fees, they range. Our average fee right now in 2021 is $350 an hour, but more experienced mediators will charge more, less experienced mediators can charge less, but never let the fee get in the way of experiencing a mediated divorce, because even if you don't have any money, there is space for you, and we will find the funding to get you through your divorce in a way that's affordable to you. So if you have $0, it's very likely that you will pay $0 to have your divorce mediated. And we have people on our team who can help make that happen for you. Yeah, so the most common question is, how does this work? And it's a loaded question, because this will work however you want it to work. So as mediators, we're here as the guides. We're like the shaman who's leading you through the path to the mountaintop, and we'll carry some of your bags and we'll show you which direction to walk in, but we will not do the work for you. We won't move your legs. You've got to move your legs yourself. So typically, once we do an initial consult and explain the mediation process a little bit to a couple, then we will invite them to sign a fee agreement and an agreement to participate. And from that point, we start making 2-hour mediation sessions. So within these sessions, you as the client and the couple and the person who's living your life will make all of the decisions about what you want to talk about. If you have something pressing that's going on, if you want to get right into talking about child custody, we can do that. If you're worried about finances and you want to get right into talking about finances, we can do that. It's completely in your control, which can be daunting, but it's also really empowering. And so our hope is to get you to that point of empowerment so that you feel really confident, taking the wheel in your own life and making those decisions. And we will be there as your mediator to guide you along the path. If sometimes we go astray when we're walking the path and we get into arguments about what happened 10 years ago and how mad I still am about that. And how could you do that to me? And you're always like this. And when are you going to grow up? I mean, we hear it all in the mediation sessions, right? So as your guides, we will sort of draw you back into focus so that we can help you use your time that you're paying for very productively. So we want to have productive, forward-moving, positive conversations so that when you're done with your mediation session, the hope is that you feel like you're like one step closer to your mountaintop. I have so many tips that I like to share, but if I can only share one, I would suggest that you connect with a CDFA, a certified divorce financial advisor. This person is qualified to offer you financial advice. This person knows the law. They know what you're entitled to. They can look at your budgets. They can tell you what you need to save for. They can warn you of pitfalls that are ahead for you. You can bring your separation agreement to this person and have them review it, perhaps in lieu of a lawyer or in addition to an attorney. It's your choice. But I think this is especially important for, and not to gender this commentary, but typically there's one spouse who has less experience in budgeting and financial planning, and typically that spouse is female. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. You're in very good company. There are lots of women who are unfamiliar with budgeting, or it's just hasn't been a priority. Again, not to gender, but maybe the women have been at home, spending time with the children and caring for the children, and have been, really focused on that and separate from the finances. So it's very important to start to wrap your head around expenses now, because it can feel really scary when you're going through your divorce process to not have the kind of information, education, or know-how that you need to feel confident on the other side. The more confident you are throughout this process, the more educated you are throughout this process, the better you're going to feel, and the happier you're going to be, because you're going to feel really empowered. You're going to feel independent. And I would say, don't delay. Even if you're, don't delay in creating a budget. So even if you're just going to do it yourself, you're not quite ready for a CDFA, you want to see what this is going to look like, open up a spreadsheet, pull out all of your credit card statements, pull out your bank statements, see what you've been spending money on for the past few years, figure out a good expense tally for the past, so you can start building out your future. And this will also provide you with opportunities to think about what your post-divorce life will look like. So you're going to see you're going to think about what you'll be able to afford, how much you'll need for savings, and also think about what's really important for you experience-wise to have in your life moving forward. So that might be travel, additional education, sports, hobbies. Maybe when you're starting to do this math, you're going to realize, oh, I need to work if you haven't been working. Maybe you're going to realize, oh, I need a second job, or I need a job that's going to pay me more in order to do all these things that I want to do. And then, be really patient with yourself while all those numbers are coming together and all those experiences are coming together. Just, keep your eye on the prize of what's really important to you, what's your highest priority, and keep leaning into that. And then, the money will come. It will have to come. So yeah, I think working with the CDFA will help you get organized. It'll help you feel super empowered. And that budgeting will strip a lot of fear out of this process. I love this question. I'm a huge fan of self-help books. I've actually written one too. So I think you should get at least three that speak to you where you are and read them cover to cover. Sometimes when we start, especially self-help books, we read them halfway through or three-quarters of the way through, being like, oh, I've got the gist of it. I'm going to put it down now. Don't do that. Just read them to cover, really commit to it. One that I love, I recommend it to all of my clients. It doesn't have to be that way, by Laura A. Wasser. She's a Hollywood divorce attorney. Her stories are kind of, they're threaded with the fabulous, rich, fast-paced Beverly Hills life, which may not look like your life. It certainly didn't look like mine, especially when I was going through my divorce. But the advice transcends all socioeconomic backgrounds and emotions and divorce situations. So read that book. It's kind of fun, and she's got great information. Read it till the end. Another book I really liked is The Art of Money by Barry Tesler. She talks about like budgeting, about being really mindful about the way that you spend money. One of her pieces of advice that she gives, which I love, is just doing a check-in every time you pull out your credit card to spend something, especially if you're the type of person who does impulse shopping and ends up getting a bunch of stuff at home that you don't really need. When you're pulling out that credit card, check in with yourself and ask yourself, how do I feel about this? And do a body scan. Like, see if you're feeling really good about the purchase you're making. It's a heck yes, then go for it. If you're not really sure, or if maybe the purchase is covering up some other emotional need that you're having, put it down and say, I'm not going to do this today, and walk out of the store. That's power. So The Art of Money by Barry Tesler. The third one that I love, and this is more for post-divorce, and again, as a stepmother to many, I appreciate this book maybe more than any I've ever read. It's called Surviving and Thriving in Step-Family Relationships. It's by Linda Papernow, and it's filled with terrific research. It really normalizes your feelings as a parent. It normalizes your children's behavior as they're going through these really hard experiences of divorce, followed by blending families. It can be really challenging, and it helps you remember not to take things personally. These are sort of universal experiences that families are having as they reconfigure themselves, they restructure. And just knowing that you're not alone can be really empowering. So those are the three that I recommend.